Hey everybody, well I'm kind of on a break and researching some stuff for some upcoming videos in the future. I thought I would upload this today. This is a video I did last June and I never uploaded it. and it has to do with the Essenes, and I've had some questions on the Essenes, but this is a video I made at the tail end of my research on the 1st century, which was by far and away the most fascinating thing I've come across of my 4 years of research on YouTube, and I will leave a link below. But this is a video takes you to the location of Qumran and Masada, and a gentleman by the name of Robert Eisenman, who I came across about a year ago and learned an incredible amount from. And I'm just going to play that video now. Hope you enjoy it. Hey everybody, I'm going to make one more video on the 1st century and move on to other topics. I sense some might be tired of this topic, and I am kind of tired of talking about it. And now that I have pretty much gone as far as I can go in that research, I'm going to go on to other topics. But one thing I haven't covered is the history of the people at the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the true history of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And many people have heard about the Essenes and different sects that were at Masada here. And let me just give you a look at it. But here it is on top of this mountain or cliff, and this overlooks the Dead Sea. And the history of the people here, what was found, the Dead Sea Scrolls were stored away probably around the time of the sack of the temple, around 68, 70 of the current era. And nobody ever came back to get the Dead Sea Scrolls because everybody was killed or fled the area from the Romans. This cliff here is where many people jumped to their deaths once the Romans did the final invasion after these events that I talked about in my last video. But to get the true history of the Essenes and what was going on, I found a gentleman by the name of Robert Eisenman, and I'm going to leave a bunch of links below. I think he's an excellent researcher. He is just interested in what went on, and he calls the Bible the Roman Hollywood version of these actual events. And he's kind of a no-nonsense guy, but I learned a tremendous amount. I'm going to leave some links for him below. But let's just jump over to a video. I'm going to let him explain the history of the people who occupied Qumran and Masada and wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls.
In 1952, a document called the Copper Scroll was found. And this was a scroll that really worried the people who were promoting a theory that we know as the Essene theory, because the Essene theory became the official theory of the group that was controlling the non-biblical texts. And the basis of the Essene theory was to press the documents as far away from Christian origins as possible and render this group that was intrinsic to the development of Christian thinking in Palestine as a pietistic, quietist, more or less politically uninvolved meditative group. But with the Copper Scroll, which were two scrolls punched into metal, revealed when they were finally opened, and there was a huge political struggle to get them opened, was that we had the temple treasure list here. And you said, well, what would that matter? It mattered because this pietist, quietist, retiring group that was apolitical, etc., why would they be interested in the temple, first of all, and why would they have a temple treasure list? And what it implied was that we had a group here who was in fact not this pietist, retiring group, but a more activist, militant, aggressive group, probably connected with the uprising against Rome. And the temple treasure list that we found in Cave 3 probably related to the attempts by the revolutionaries to sequester the temple treasure in the face of the coming Roman armies. And that linked this group very closely to the uprising against Rome from 66 to 70. We feel that this movement, the movement we have here, is really the better name for it than Essene or even Zealot, is the Messianic movement in Palestine. We've said that this literature is tremendously messianic. At the beginning, we were seeing documents having to do with two messiahs, but we were also seeing documents having to do with a single Judeo-Christian style Davidic messiah too. And in the unpublished materials, we're even seeing more of this kind of material relating to a kind of normative Judeo-Christian Davidic style single messiah. And if you read your Josephus, the historian of this period who wrote the Jewish war carefully, you'll see that Josephus says in one passage of his book about the war against Rome that the thing that most moved the Jewish people to revolt against Rome was the prophecy that a world ruler would come out of Palestine. That tells us that they were moved by the Messianic prophecy, and that the revolution against Rome that we often think of political was in fact not simply political but religious and messianic. We think we have here the literature of the movement. We don't say it began in the 1st century. It leads up from the Maccabean period in the 2nd century BC on up through the Herodian period into the 1st century. We think we have here the literature of the Messianic movement. And in my work, I have said that the last stages of this literature and the last stages of this movement, which is the project I came to Israel to research in '85, is parallel to the Jerusalem community, that community known in the New Testament as the Jerusalem Church, the Jerusalem community of James the Just, sometimes called in Christian tradition the brother of Jesus.